a clip or video with Brad Warner, who wrote Hardcore Zen, or is the leader of the Hardcore Zen lineage. I don't know what it is, but I think it's a book. He's a knowledgeable Zen teacher, and I haven't read anything by him, I think, but I've seen his name pop up through the years several times. And I saw this video by him about scandals within the Buddhist sect and his view on it. And I thought I'd watch it. I've seen some of it already, but I wanted to watch it and make some comments about it. It's about Krishnamurti and Genpo Roshi and Josu Sakai, I think his name is. So I just put it on and make my post and make some brief comments.
Who was married at the time, and
here is talking about, just to set the context, about Krishnamurti, who was married and he had a scandal that broke out that he had an affair with his, I think it was his one of his friend's wives for 2-3 decades, and he was a celibate, or he wasn't, but he said he was.
And there's this tell-all book about it, which I downloaded on my Kindle, I don't know, a couple years ago, and I couldn't get through it. I read the first few chapters, and it's just too boring. I'm sorry. It was not interesting to me at all. And maybe that's why I want to talk about. So these things happen. So I don't know anything about the guys, the guy who wrote me, whose teacher had an affair with his married student. I don't know if she was a student.
So the context, to set it even more, or to some degree, some person wrote him and asked him about a teacher who had an affair, and yes, and then he started talking about Krishnamurti and his affair, and one of his points is that he doesn't really care about it.
Student even. I'm not even sure who she was. So I don't know much about that. What I do know a little about Krishnamurti's affair was there's this book that's written about it, and I just felt like when I was reading this book, I'm reading one of these books where somebody's really trying to get me to get emotionally involved, but they're not getting me emotionally involved. I don't have much interest in these kind of soap operas and things, and I can't follow them. I was just trying to watch Shogun. I guess Shogun is probably a really good show. It's on, I don't know if it's Hulu or Netflix or one of those. And I got halfway through the first episode, and I'm like, I have no idea what the hell's going on, so I stopped watching it because it was just these convoluted sort of soap operas, who did who to what and what did who to who, and I don't care. And that's kind of where I fall with this stuff. Like for Krishnamurti, in Krishnamurti's case, I don't care that he had an affair with his secretary. It doesn't make any difference at all in what he says and what.
Yes, yeah. So this is the argument that he doesn't care and it doesn't make any difference. This is for a lot of things, if it's Michael Jackson or someone who just has a viewpoint that is very different from your own. How much does that affect sort of, if you take it like he does, like looking at the artwork, almost like Picasso, for example, may have been an a-hole, but people enjoy his paintings now. And time also seems to have an impact on it. You don't make jokes about 9/11 right after, but 20 years later, so I don't know what South Park, I think they had some 20-year rule that they just made up, but it's somewhat true that people can start talking about it and they don't care as much about it. And it's fine to make jokes about it, and maybe even, you just look at the artwork and can, admire it or not. There are degrees, though. I don't think you would find any, if Hitler, someone, were like a great painter, they would of course be worth a lot, but I don't know if you would find people just adoring it and having these exhibitions and saying, I don't care about what I did. I don't care. He paints wonderful. I love it. Uh, Maybe. I don't know. It depends. But I think everybody has a line here. And he, Brad doesn't mind Krishnamurti having an affair with someone. And to me, that wouldn't mean that much either. But it depends on how you view it and what you're viewing. The thing with Krishnamurti, though, and I'm not sure Brad is aware of it, but he maintained to his students that he was a celibate, that he was living a celibate, that he didn't have any, yeah. And at the same time, he was having an affair, which is, of course, very unethical to both be lying about it and having an affair with your, best friend, or if it was his editor's wife or whatever it was. That is, of course, very unethical. Still, it doesn't mean that the books he wrote wasn't any good or that the teachings he gave weren't good. They may very well have been wonderful, like great pieces of art or work. So, and that is Brad's point, as I understand it, at least.
What he talked about. Another one who, I'm genuinely sorry, but I don't care about the various scuttlebutt and scandals around Joshu Sasaki Roshi. I think this is a great book. Buddha is the Center of Gravity, and it's one of the most important books I ever read about Buddhism. And you don't try to find a copy of this. You can find it on the Terabes.
Yeah. So Joshu Sasaki Roshi, he says that he also doesn't care. That is his returning point, as I see it. And yeah, and of course that's fine. Everyone has the right to their own opinion, and but just to put it in context here again, or to give some more information, he's a big name within the Zen tradition, and he's revered by many people as one of the great teachers, as far as I know, anyway. And if you look it up, and he had through decades, this is much worse than Jiddu Krishnamurti. This guy, at least if you look it up on Wikipedia and yeah, just do a simple search, it seems like through the years, uh, accounts of different types of harassment and improprieties relating to sexual behavior was coming from students, senior teachers, the the members of his Mount Baldy Zen Center wrote a letter in 1997. In even in 1982, Stephen Wilder, who's quite famous too, wrote a resignation letter alleging the same thing. So it's pretty. It seems like it has a lot of ground to stand on, and it's not a question if it happened. It did. To it seems very much so. There's a lot of smoke, like it is a lot of smoke. So it's probably a fire. Um, to do this though, as when you are a Zen teacher, is makes you, in my mind, a bad teacher. So even if you wrote good, great books, you as a teacher is not even eligible to be a teacher if you commit this sort of sexual misconduct against your, both nuns and women within the women students there. It's so simple to me, just as any teacher or any other, you know, in school or somewhere else, you don't do that either. It's just highly unethical. And in the Zen tradition, you're not just because Brad Warner makes this analogy with someone playing an instrument, or Neil Young wanted to leave Spotify, or left Spotify because Joe Rogan was still there and he was spreading misinformation, he said. And yeah, I mean, Neil Young is, of course, he can have his own opinion. He can leave Spotify if he wishes to, but I wouldn't have done that. I think that's, that people have the right to express their opinions, and Joe Rogan, he has a lot of different guests, whatever, whatever you think about it. But sexual misconduct towards students is just not, that doesn't fly, especially when you're, and this is the point with Neil Young plays the guitar. Maybe people don't care too much if he commits those types of, even crimes. It's not just, unethical behavior. It's punishable by law in most countries. Um, so, but people may not care that much if Neil Young does this. I don't know. They may still listen to his music anyway. But when you're a Zen priest or Zen master, ethics is you're not just doing art. That is one thing. You're writing a book. You're giving a speech, but you're also being a teacher. You're also hanging out with your students, and this guy is acting like this. Yeah, to me, you shouldn't be a teacher. You may be, you should, yeah, write books, to find something else to do, but don't hang around women, or don't have students. I think it's sad even that one of the senior students, yeah, I was told by one Osho and one senior student I would be blamed for Yoshio Roshi's death if I tried to make him change his behavior, and that I would be responsible ruining his legacy. That is exactly what we hear with those people doing these kinds of things. And he used, the carrot. He said that he would tell them that sexual contact with a Zen master or Roshi like him would help them attain new levels of non-attachment. One of Zen's main objectives. If they resisted, on the other hand, he used intimidation and threats of expulsion. Of course, I mean there are references to this too, so it's not just there are many people saying this, and to me, saying, just I don't care, like Brad Warner says. I can buy that with, Neil Young. I don't care if he leaves Spotify or not, or if he has different opinions from Joe Rogan. It doesn't really matter to me. I can still listen to his music. And I could still read Joshua's book. But to say that I don't care at all about a Zen teacher doing these kinds of things, I think it really hurts uh, the tradition. It hurts, Zen teachers, and it hurts people. I think you should care, and that is my opinion. And it's a bit, yeah, I find it weird, especially later on, where Brad says that he really dislikes uh, Genpo Roshi and gets emotional about it because Genpo Roshi asked for a lot of money giving his big mind sessions. That that is something that Brad apparently cares a lot about, which I found weird. If you don't care about, you know, Jojo doing those things against students, but you care about Kemporoshi charging too much. To me, that doesn't make sense. I mean, again, he's entitled to his opinion. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, let's continue.
Website as a PDF, and that's free. But if you try to buy a copy, it'll cost you like $300. This one
I
cost
actually
me
downloaded it.
four
It's
dollars,
free.
but that was a long time ago. You can't get it for $4 anymore. This one's a lot easier to find about Tathagata Zen. I
Yeah.
think you have to order this. I don't care about his scandals. I tried, this has been years ago when they first blew up. I tried to sort of follow what he's supposed to have done. And I'm not saying he didn't do any of these things. I just find that when I'm reading it, I'm just reading a lot of blah, blah, blah. That's what it feels like. It genuinely, honest to God, when I read the Joshu Sasaki stuff, it just sounded like
Sorry.
squawking to me in my head. It was just like rah, rah, rah. I just don't care. Same with
Yeah, and I mean, this is also the sense I got looking at his video. I can buy some of the things he says, but this is a sort of yeah, of course that is his experience. He experienced this wow whatever that means. That is he's speaking about drama. But these things hurt people. When a teacher sexually harasses you like this, or that is allegedly happened over for decades, it's not just a wow. Even though this is Brad's, but I think that's a bit, yeah, like he says himself, he doesn't care. It's a bit uncaring, I would say. And it's so simple to just look it up on Wikipedia. It's not a lot of why. It's really short and concise, and it has a lot of references. It's obvious that he did all these things that are really terrible to do as a human being, but even more so being a Zen teacher that is revered by his students. Yeah, it's really not a good look. It could even be that he should go to probably should have went to jail for it. Um, I don't know the laws where he lives, but yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
the Krishnamurti tell-all book. It was just like a lot of nails on chalkboard. Sort of. I just get an irritation from reading that stuff.
So that's of course his experience from reading how people communicate this, and I can totally understand. I wouldn't really be interested maybe in reading a book about it. But having it summarized, in a neutral way, like it is on Wikipedia, that's fine enough for me. I don't know why he has to. He seems interested in books, so maybe that's why he doesn't use a search engine.
And so I just don't care. And there's maybe a bigger reason why I don't care, and I want to try to explain this with somewhat of a metaphor, which is two of my favorite musical artists. Not neither one is my number one or anything, but they're two people I enjoy their music a lot. Would be Ted Nugent and Neil Young. These are my favorite albums by each.
Yeah, and these are because I saw this before. Neil Young, as I said, left Spotify because of Joe Rogan was still there, and that was like a big news a couple of years ago. And Ted Nugent, he just says that he had a lot of weird right wing opinions that didn't make him like Ted Nugent more. But his point is that, yeah, the music is still the same. The music is comes from another place, even, is what his point is. That is the title of one of the chapters in his video. Even music comes from someplace else. So even though they have these weird opinions, but that's my point. There's a spectrum, right? So when we have, if we take Michael Jackson again, for example, for me at least, that is sort of it isn't as nice to listen to his music anymore, knowing what it most likely looks like he has been doing to children. I don't enjoy it anymore to listen to his music like as I did before. I really liked it when I was younger, but now I don't because of that, because of knowing these things. And I think it does. It isn't as simple as things, and that is just music. So, and it's even more so if it is, like I said, a Zen teacher that is supposed to be ethical, act in ethical ways, especially towards his own students. Uh, so it has an effect, to my mind. even though I agree with Brad in that we have this, shall we say, something is, if we want to use the term, channeled through us, just like Messi playing soccer. For you American, uh, if well, there's no one listening to me, but anyway, if you're American listening, that is, um, soccer. He's a soccer player. If it would be the U.S., maybe Kobe, or Shaquille O'Neal, or some great basketball player. So LeBron, he plays just as well, even though he may be not a good player outside of court, let's say. It doesn't affect his how good he is. It doesn't affect his capability to shoot hoops, and that's true, of course. But it is also true that it can affect the way we view him, the way we feel looking at it, and the way we feel when it comes to music when we listen to it, and even more so, I would say, to people who ethics is a part of their religion. So Zen is a sort of a religion or philosophy, whatever you want to call it, and being ethical, acting ethical ways is kind of the center of it in many ways. And these people are obviously not following the basic tenets of Zen Buddhism. I remember my own teacher in Zen Buddhism who said that, yeah, if the teacher is asking you for sex or money, just leave immediately. So they never ask for sex, and they don't ask for money either. They take donations, but they never ask for it. I think that's hard to do in the Western world, but that's how they do it. Okay, yes, let's listen to some more.
Music comes from someplace else. I don't know if it comes from physically someplace else, but it comes from another part of this universe that isn't too much involved in the personality of the musician who plays it. The musician who plays it does have some kind of filtering or something that makes it come through in a specific way, but the music itself is beyond that. So Ted Nugent's the guitar solo on Stranglehold is one of the best guitar solos ever. It really it surpasses a lot of the stuff by giants like Jimi Hendrix but it comes
Yeah, so that was just the point, that it comes from somewhere else and we can enjoy it either way. I agree with that. That is true for sure.
from someplace else. It comes from another place. And I can kind of speak to this in my own career and stuff. I wrote about all of my personal scandals, at least the ones. What I find is that the teachings, I don't even like that, the word sounds so pretentious, but anyway, the teachings are coming from someplace else. And now here's where I get pretentious. There are times when it usually happens when I am speaking to an audience that is particularly receptive and open to what is coming through. And if that openness occurs, something comes through that Brad the Brad Warner personality doesn't have a whole lot of control over. It
Yeah. So
now
he haven't mentioned Gamperoshi. I don't remember where it was. I thought I heard about it, or I know I heard about it, but maybe this isn't the video even. Let's see if he mentions it here. This is his
Now,
conclusion.
after I said that thing, I was the only one in all of American Zen Buddhism, one
Okay, so
person,
this is
this
about
guy,
this. Let's see.
think and how they perceive things. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't know if this means I'm on the autistic spectrum or something, but especially when it comes to these kind of sex scandal things, I don't get it. Example number one, my favorite example, is the Genpo Roshi. Now,
Here it
some
comes.
of you have been
Here we
following me
go.
for a while will know this. But I was very critical a few years ago about this teacher named Genpo Roshi, who came out with this thing called Big Mind, which guaranteed everyone who did it to have an enlightenment experience almost instantly, within like a day. He would sometimes claim that he could give a person a genuine enlightenment experience within like a few hours. And he was charging, in some cases, $50,000.
And the thing is, the way he, just as he represents um, the oh, Jesus Christ, that it represents Krishnamurti and sort of downplays the problems with the sexual misconduct there. Uh, just as he downplays with, I think that is my impression at least, with Joshu, that he says, yeah, I don't know if it happened. Is yeah, just a wonder, wow, 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 wow. That is, his. When it comes to Gempo again, he's like, he charges 50,000. He knows exactly. He knows exactly what it is, and he says that Gempo also, yeah, said he can give people an enlightenment experience in just one day. You know, I don't. I imagine that Brad haven't tried it. The Big Mind process. I remember when it came in 2006 or something like that, and I knew it because Ken Wilber, who was a writer that I read a lot from. He spoke about it and said, yeah, that I liked it, and I tried it out, and yeah, it works. It's I mean, it's not like you have done like you've done worked on a koan for 5 years and have a breakthrough, but it's definitely a wonderful, opening experience. It is a small kensho, whatever you want to call it. It is an opening to something that would otherwise maybe take a couple of years of just meditation, not even having like a big breakthrough, but just getting that clarity and openness through the Genpo Roshi used something called the Big Mind process, or sorry, the voice dialogue from Helen Sidra Stone, and then he added the big mind voice and the big, yeah. So you talk to these different selves in yourself, and then you talk to these higher selves or higher voices, whatever you want to call it, and it works pretty well actually. People who haven't meditated for a long time at all have these pretty good experiences of openness and clarity. And of course, like if you say a real enlightenment experience, yeah, that's probably not the case. I don't know if he said that. Maybe if he did that, that is sort of false marketing. But I think, yeah, um, and yeah, charging 50,000. That was, as I remember, he had this thing called 5 5 50. He took 5 people for 5 days and did like a lot of things with them, and he charged 50,000, which was bizarre. Who would pay that? But he was really, that was that is what happens when you get really really famous and people want to be with you. You can charge these ridiculous amounts of money, and he did that. Uh, Still, I would I would use the same criteria that Brad himself uses, that it doesn't mean that the rest of his teaching is any worse or is worse from it. He's still, um, I mean, that is, if he has written books, do they change because he did a big mind process? Do they change because he charged a lot of money? No, they don't. Um, or they might, because this is what seems to be bothering Brad. He seems to really dislike someone charging a lot of money, and that gets him fired up, and not hearing someone sexually abusing someone else. Which again, I find that interesting, a bit weird. We'll see how he justifies it.
To come and sit with him and get this genuine enlightenment experience. And I was very critical of that because he's one of the big people in American Zen. A lot of American Zen people trace their lineages through Genpo Roshi. And there's a whole reason behind that, but I'll let you look that up on the internet. But it's true. And he's a hugely influential guy. And I thought, this is terrible. This is a really, really terrible thing. This is a total violation of everything that Buddhism stands for, etc., etc. And I've made videos about it, and you can go look for those if you want. One of them.
Okay, so he doesn't really qualify it. It's so yeah, I haven't looked at him. So yeah, maybe he has like a really great argument to why it is blasphemy, or yeah. Okay.
Has a sock monkey in it if you want to see it. That's the first video, one of the first videos I ever made about Zen for YouTube. And it still gets looked at by people. Now, after I said that thing, I was the only one in all of American Zen Buddhism, one person, this guy, criticized Genpo Roshi over the big mind stuff. Nobody else did. Not a single person.
I mean, to me, one response may be that they didn't dislike it. Maybe they didn't dislike it. I didn't dislike it. I'm part of the Zen tradition too, in many ways. I'm from the Kapleau lineage, Philip Roshi Kapleau, and yeah, I thought it was great. It's a great, you know, auxiliary module, or whatever you want to call it. Some thing, especially for beginners, to get a sense of, you know, what is an open awareness or something like that. It's yeah, it's a great process. Of course, saying that you will become enlightened would be false marketing, and yeah, wouldn't. But how, I don't see how that goes against everything that is Zen. I just don't. On the contrary, though, I can see how. um, yeah, we will come to that. What he did, that is contrary to Zen, as far as I see it.
Yet, when he had a sex scandal, I don't know, he had an affair with somebody. I don't know. I think he was married and had an affair with somebody. I don't know what the deal was. Then
Again, for the like umpth time, Brad has no idea about what, because he's not interested in it as a scene. But every time he doesn't know anything about it, it sounds like it wasn't really anything. You know, yeah, some affair, something, blah and blah blah blah, something like that. That is the way he portrays all these scandals. In reality, if we just do a quick Google search or Wikipedia search, we can see what it's about. And we can see that already in 1988, Dennis, he was alleged to have a romantic relationship with a student. Again, this is different from having an affair with someone. I would say having an affair is, that's of course unethical, but it isn't like that of a big deal. I would of course expect more from a Zen teacher who's supposed to be acting ethically in most cases, but yeah, these things happen, and I wouldn't take that so. Yeah, I wouldn't like want someone to disrobe because of that. But having a romantic relationship with a student, that is kind of, at least as time, yeah, I may need to look it up. But as I understand it in the Zen traditions, that is a no-no. You don't do that. And that is also a no-no in, you know, public life and in most organizations and things like that, because there's this power dynamic, which is really, yeah, it's not a good thing when you're supposed to do what the teacher says. They look up to these teachers even more so than your boss at work, you know, because these teachers are almost like a god, or like father figure, whatever, you know, all these projections. So abusing that power, I mean, of course, people who are of an opposite point of view would say, yeah, this is just, shall we say, you know, two consenting adults. But that doesn't hold up in my opinion. It is on a spectrum. You know, if you have someone, let's say an 50-year-old man who has a lot of money, and he has like uh, a ton of 18-year-olds women working for him, and he has sex with them, and if they don't have sex, he fires them. Yeah, it's who would say that that is consenting adults? It's it's an idiotic. It's yeah, and yeah, it's just a no-no. You can't do it, and if you do it, you shouldn't be a teacher. That is how I see it. I think it's really really black and white. Having sexual or romantic relationships with your students, you need to get out of that situation. You shouldn't be a teacher, and you should take a long hard look at yourself, and only return, if ever, when you don't have that issue anymore, even if it is consenting adults, even if it's really, of course, there can be instances where it isn't, flat out abuse, but the power dynamic in that type of relationship just necessitates, or it is impossible to condone that type of activity. You just can't. It says that in August in 1992, a group of 12 American Zen teachers sent a letter to Taisam Maizumi expressing concern about Merzel's relationship with a number of female students, his lack of remorse, and his lack of responsibility. They asked Maizumi to withdraw Merzel's sanction to teach. And as I understand it, this is explicit in the Zen precepts or whatever. I don't know what it's called, that you don't do this again. This is against the rules of being a Zen teacher. Charging a lot of money, as far as I know, isn't it's not a rule, so people wouldn't get that mad about that. So it's again really weird to me how Brad Warner seems to think that that is terrible, that it charges a lot of money, and of course making claims about enlightenment, but this is protecting students from a yeah, a guy that's really not nice. That is, of course, much more important than someone charging a lot of money. I mean, if someone want to pay a lot of money for that, sure, it's not a good idea, but no one's really getting hurt. It's you know what you get from it, and or not if it's false advertising, thinking you get enlightenment. But yeah, ask for your money back. In February 2011, after admitting to three extra martial is that how I say it, affairs, Marcel said he would disrobe as a Buddhist priest. So this was in 2011. This is the instance that Brad is speaking about. But this has had also been going on for decades. So three he had this, and I think this was also not just affairs, as I remember it, that it was students. At least a few of them were students again. And then, these letters, 44 American Buddhist teachers wrote a letter. And yeah, at first he said he was going to disrobe, and then he changed his mind. And he said that his organization and a lot of, which is true, of course, a lot of people will lose money if he doesn't teach, because the whole Sangha revolves around him, and he owns much of it. So yeah, and then 66 American Buddhist teachers responded and asked him to follow through with his stated intention to stop teaching for some time, which he didn't listen to. And he continues to serve as president and abbot of Kanzeon Zen Center. And okay, so yeah, he did what he wanted to, and he just kept on going. Yeah, I don't think you should be a student or a teacher again if you do these kinds of things. And I think it's much worse to have this kind of a behavior than charging a lot of money, for sure.
Ben, he gets canceled, and then he like sadly disrobes. I love that. They call it disrobing. Yeah, getting naked. He took off his robes and declared himself no longer a Zen teacher. Of course, he still makes loads of money and stuff, and he's still got a thing going. And what I don't know what changed. He just doesn't wear the robes anymore. But that's what got him, was he had a sex scandal. Like nobody cared that he was violating the main, like everything that Buddhism should stand for, he was violating. Then he has a sex scandal, and then they care.
So
So
yeah, it's hard to say anything about this because he's just saying that it violates everything that Buddhism stands for. But what is that? I think ethical behavior by the teacher is definitely one of those things, as I've said before. And charging a lot of money, sure, maybe that's too. But yeah, I think yeah, I've said it over and over. But yeah, the having the prioritization of someone charging a lot of money and making some big mind process and making bold claims about it, that's the most terrible thing. Not sleeping with your students. Yeah.
this confuses me, and I don't understand it.
No,
And I
imagine you don't,
accept that it's a thing, but it just doesn't mean anything to me at all.
which is really
So
weird.
I don't
That
know.
is,
Do I have a conclusion to this? No. Do I like rhetorical questions? No. Do I
yeah. So again, I think this is so really off. I understand his points, but I think it's just dead wrong with on this one. Or I'm of a different opinion. I think it's much more important to make a Zen sangha where people are dependent on on a teacher, a to use a politically charged term, like a safe place where they're not sexually harassed and abused. That is much more important than writing letters when someone charges a lot of money or make um, bold claims about the big mind process. I don't that to me doesn't. I don't yeah, I wouldn't care about that at all if people do that on the side or as a side gig if they are Zen teachers. Why would I? Uh, so it's weird. I'm gonna take a look at this other video. I guess if I have the time and see if he makes some other arguments that may be more clear or more concise or better in some ways. Okay, yeah, that was it. I think. Thank you.